Learning new skills doesn't have to cost a fortune. Welcome to Affordable Futures, where we cover practical ways to grow without hefty price tags. I'm Kathleen, and today we're breaking down the public versus private university debate. The cost, class size, program variety, and whether the price gap is actually as wide as it looks on paper. And at the end, I'll throw in a third option out there that traditional public versus private framing tends to leave out entirely. Before getting into comparisons, a quick orientation on what these terms actually mean. Public universities are funded primarily by the state and local government. That subsidy is why in-state students get discounted tuition rate. You or your parents have been paying taxes that help fund the school, so the state passes on some of that back in form of lower tuition. Examples include the University of Michigan, UCLA, Ohio State, UT Austin. Large enrollments, wide program variety, strong research infrastructure. Private universities operate independently. There's no state funding, which means they set their own tuition and policies without being beholden to a state legislature. They're funded through tuition, endowments, and donations. Some are research powerhouses like Harvard, MIT, and Duke. Others are small liberal arts colleges with a few hundred students. The category is wide. About 73% of undergraduates attend public institutions. The remaining students are split between private, nonprofit, and for-profit schools. So the public path is the default of most people, but understanding why someone might choose private or neither is worth the conversation. Cost, the sticker price versus what you're actually going to pay. This is the most loaded part of the comparison and the most frequently misunderstood. In 2025 to 2026, average published tuition and fees at public four-year schools are about $12,000 in-state students and $32,000 for out-of-state students. At a private, nonprofit four-year institution, the average published tuition is around $45,000. Those are College Board figures, not just estimates. At first glance, it looks like a landslide for public schools, and for in-state students, it often is. But the sticker price is not the price that most people pay, especially at a private school. The most current NACUBO data released in June of 2026 puts that the private nonprofit tuition discount rate is 57% for first-time full-time undergraduates. This means that the school's own institutional aid is cutting the published price by more than half before federal aid even enters the picture. About 90% of first-time undergraduates at participating schools receive some form of institutional grants. The average net price for a first-time full-time student at a private college is dropping from $45,000 sticker price to roughly $17,000 after institutional aid alone, before Pell Grants or outside scholarships are added. Meanwhile, the average in-state student at a public university pays about $14,000 per year in total cost of attendance after aid, not $30,000 sticker price. So the real comparison for many students is closer to $14,000 versus somewhere in the $20,000 to $30,000 range, depending on the specific school's generosity. It's still a meaningful gap, but it's not the 4-to-1 ratio that the sticker price suggests. One variable that blows up public school math is leaving your state. A 4-year degree at an out-of-state public school costs on average around $200,000 total, while including room and board, compared to about $124,000 at an in-state public school. The moment you cross a state line for a public school, the affordability advantage largely disappears. An out-of-state public school can cost as much as a private school and sometimes more once aid is factored in. The practical takeaway is to run the net price calculator on every school's website before making any assumptions. Every college is required to publish one. The sticker price is a starting point, but it's not the full answer. So our next topic is class size, and this is where private schools have a real edge. This is one of the more straightforward For the 2024 to 2025 academic year, the average student to faculty ratio at a public college is about 15 to 1. At a private nonprofit school, it's around 13 to 1. And those averages don't tell the full story, though. They obscured wide variation within each category. The University of Central Florida has just over 59,000 undergraduates and a student to faculty ratio of 28 to 1. Pomona College, a small private school in Southern California, has under 1,800 students and a ratio of 7 to 1. Both are technically within the typical range for their respective categories, but the experience of being a student at those two schools is completely different. At large public universities, especially in the first 2 years, you'll be in a lecture hall with 200 or 300 other students. A teaching assistant runs your discussion section, not the professor whose name is on the syllabus. That's not inherently bad. Some people learn fine in that environment, but it's worth knowing before going in. At a private universities, particularly small liberal arts colleges, smaller student bodies tend to mean stronger relationships with faculty, more personalized academic support, and easier access to professors outside of class. If your learning style benefits from direct faculty access and you want your professors to know your name, smaller private schools tend to deliver that more consistently than large public flagships. The trade-off is that a smaller campus also means smaller social scenes, fewer clubs, and less variety in extracurriculars. And at some schools, fewer majors to choose from. Program variety. Public schools win on breadth alone. Public colleges generally offer a wider variety of classes, majors, and extracurricular activities. That's a function of scale. A state university with 40,000 students can sustain a department for almost every field. A private college with 2,000 students cannot. If you know exactly what you want to study, and it's a niche or specialized field, the first question is whether your target school has the strong program in it, regardless of type. A large public university might be the only school in your state with a robust program in a specific area, and a specialized private school might be the only place in the country doing a particular type of research. When private schools often punch above their weight despite smaller size, it's business, law, medicine, and certain STEM fields where institutional reputation and faculty connections carry real weight. The top-ranked national universities in the U.S. are predominantly private, but that's a specific tier at the very top of the market, not a general statement about private education as a category. For most students, choosing between a solid in-state public school and a comparable private program, variety tends to favor the public option. For students that are targeting a specific field where private school has a standout program, that reputation is worth examining carefully. Now it's time for that third path worth knowing about. The public-private framing assumes that you're going to campus, and not everyone is, and not everyone should be. For working adults, career changers, and people with geographic constraints, or for anyone whom the room and board math changes your college equation completely, online programs exist outside the comparison. The cost structure is different, the flexibility is different, and in many cases, the degree is equivalent. University of the People sits at an extreme end of the spectrum because there's no tuition at all. It's just a $180 assessment fee per undergraduate course. They are WASC accredited, fully online, fully asynchronous. Degrees in business, computer science, health science, and education. There's no residency requirement, and it doesn't participate in FAFSA, so there's no federal aid, but the cost is low enough that a part-time student, the math often works out favorably regardless. It's not the right fit for everyone. Campus life, in-person faculty relationships, and the traditional college experience aren't on the table with an online program. But for the right person in the right situation, it's a legitimate path that the public-private debate tends to skip entirely. So how do we actually decide? A few questions worth sitting with before committing anywhere. Are you in state, or would you be crossing a state line? If you're staying in state, public is almost always the cost winner. If you're leaving, run the numbers very carefully. An out-of-state public tuition often rivals or exceeds the private school net prices after aid. How do you learn? If you need structure, smaller class sizes, and direct faculty access, and a small private school or a smaller public school is worth prioritizing over a large flagship. If you're self-directed and comfortable navigating a big institution, the broader offerings and lower cost of a large public school makes more sense. What are you studying? If your field has a specific program at a specific school that's clearly stronger than the alternatives, that's what matters more than the public versus private debate. Follow the program quality. What will you actually pay? Run every school's net price calculator. Sticker price is just noise. Net price is the actual number that matters. And if you're not coming straight from high school, if you're working, you have a family, or you need flexibility, the campus conversation might be the wrong starting point entirely. That's it for today on Affordable Futures, growth without the big price tag. Drop your biggest challenge in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.